Alright, welcome back to Space Hangouts. It's so far me and Mina, also from CSM9, so there's definitely two of us this time, which is awesome. I've posted the link on Twitter and on Google+. I've actually done that before getting in the Hangout this time, so there's slightly less awkward me filling air. I've also successfully started patching my Singularity client, which has already downloaded everything, so this is going to go way better than me trying to drunk stream the other night. Anyways, Mina, have you checked out any of the Singularity stuff yet?
A little bit, but I haven't had a whole lot of time to play around with it.
Cool.
Been a busy week and everything.
Yeah. I guess one of the things, I didn't realize it wasn't public yet, but the moons in 0.4 systems. I thought that had been mentioned weeks ago, but people were acting like they just found out now, so.
Well, it was mentioned just the other day, publicly
Okay.
anyway.
Neat. I'm glad I didn't leak that one. Hey Thekla, how's it going? Yeah, open the Q&A thing to see if anyone put anything there.
Usual reminder that Eve has sound upon logging into Sissy.
Yep. I've successfully disabled my Sissy noises so far. I think CCP fixed my Ali Aras account on Singularity. Did you, Mina, were you able to log in like when it first came up, or did it tell you that your account was disabled?
I was having problems with account disabled, although I wasn't trying to log in on my CSM account because my industry guys are on another account.
Yeah, that makes sense. My industry character is on another account, but she is the mirror hasn't happened recently enough, and so even though she's training advanced mass production on Tranquility, on Singularity, she's got nothing. So I was trying to do the alley thing.
Well, on the topic of industry and everything, I was looking into it for a topic that I'm writing a blog post on, and have BPOs always had this invention tab on the bill of materials tab?
I have no idea. Let me try asking.
I don't know either. Need to ask someone who does industry more regularly.
I know someone who does invention, and I will ask him.
Well, if Steve is around any of the channels, we can always ask him too.
True.
And he said something like...
Anyways, question away to the Sound IRC Hive Mind, which is where I usually go to answer. Ask them.
Any blueprints? Original blueprints have?
BPOs have an invention tab under bill of materials, and this isn't even like on Sissy, this is on live, and I've never noticed it before.
I'll check it out and see if it's familiar.
Alright, Minimax says yes, they always have, so...
Well, the more you know. I thought that had only ever been on the BBCs.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense since BPCs and BPOs are kind of the same thing, I guess. I don't know. So, are there any systems on Singularity that already have the Outpost upgrades installed?
So this mirror isn't new enough to have some of our new Outpost upgrades that we've dropped up in Declan. But 2R- or 2-K, one or the other, should nevertheless have a Tier 3 MR outpost, because it's had one for a while.
Okay.
And II-5 up in Declan has a Tier 2 Caldari. Oops, because it has for a while.
Alright.
And then, of course, Tier 1 Minotaur are everywhere.
Well, as soon as they update and get all the fundamentals working, they're going to mirror soon. So
yeah, once they remirror, we'll have a Tier 3 Minotaur in YAW, or YA0 rather.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, the Tier 3 Amar and Tier 2 Caldari.
Neat.
So those will be usable for testing.
yeah, I was hoping it'd be this week, but I don't think Sissy's stable enough yet, unless they do leaps and bounds over the next 2 days to to get it in before the weekend.
I mean, they can mirror whenever. So, Lockfox, how has your streaming and testing and whatnot been going?
It's been going pretty well. I'm actually surprised that a bunch of the problems I saw on Wednesday were cleaned up by Friday. There's still a bunch of bad math, but things are a lot better now.
Nice. How does this? I guess how big is your industry set up most of the time? Are you one of the really big industrial producers who are, having to readjust accounts and tons of lines and all of that?
So when I'm running at full speed, it's at least 7 characters all running full jobs almost 24/7.
Okay.
So you've got a
And
setup
I
like
haven't
mine,
been doing
except
that
you
for the
actually
last
use
few
it.
months just because work makes it impossible to get the time required to keep that effort up. But I'm sort of coming at it with the idea of what's it going to be like when you have to install for multiple characters on multiple accounts.
Well, you mentioned work, and I mean, one of the things that should be nice is with the longer invention times and everything, you'll lose less time for being busy in real life.
Yeah, as long as I don't just get one run blueprints out from invention, that seems kind of fucked up for modules.
You shouldn't be. You should be getting 10 runs.
Yeah, I've been
Yeah, I
getting
thought-
1 runs off of modules, at least the stuff I delivered last night.
There's Grayscale's thread in the Science and Industry forum that he's been discussing all of those changes with us for a while. And I'm pretty sure that blueprints or BPC's modules are supposed to be giving you 10 runs. Ships are still 1 run base, of course.
And I do like the idea that we're now consuming runs off of a copy, so I shouldn't have to have so much copy spam, which is great for accounting and asset bullcrap.
Yeah, no kidding.
Because I hit that. I have something like 10,000 blueprint copies right now.
Oh yeah, I believe I have a character stable similar to yours of characters that are fully trained or in the process of being trained for invention, but I don't use them a whole lot for personal use anyway. They're when they get broken out, it's because it's like, oh, I need 50 Aneros for the corp, and we've run out for some reason. Jita is out of them.
Yeah, I'm hoping that with the UI updates that the amount of time required to put in jobs will be lowered, and I'm seeing that already.
That's good.
That should bring forward that people will stop having so much of the you can either PvP or industry. Like, I'd love to see that gulf get shorter.
Yeah.
Well, that's in a lot of ways a feature of skills, right? Because I'm on Ali right now. I haven't.
I suspect he
applied.
means like actual time invested.
Wow.
Because even just skills. I mean, skills are skills, and you're going to be screwed with that for Eve. That's a feature. What my problem is that so much of the play hours have come down to I could spend my hours running around Eve looking for PvP, or I can spend my hours making things. And trying to do both at the same time has never worked very well.
But if you're not having to log back in hourly to run new invention jobs for modules,
if I can get if I can get the right yields for those jobs, because if you're making it just longer, and now I still have to put the same number of jobs in because I still only do a 24-hour schedule or a 12-hour schedule.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Have you visited Grayscale's thread?
No, I'm not much of a forum whore because I can't access it at work.
Okay, so I have like spreadsheets and everything with all this. The long and the short of it is he's gone, and of course you only ever need 1 blueprint copy for anything for invention. Copy times are much shorter now, which I'm sure you've noticed. They're down to 80% of build time, except with Tech 2 copying. He left that kind of out there for a little while they figure out how to deal with Galente outposts.
The link that I could go see his thread because I don't know where it is.
It's in the Science and Industry forum. he's got a CSV somewhere in there. You want to jump down to like page 20 or something for his most recent CSV.
I'll
with
throw a
those
link
changes.
in there 1 second.
Yeah.
But invention time is up massively. Let me find.
Yeah, and that's
So-
getting reflected because I saw one, the invention, the POS stuff isn't applying its math correctly, but yeah, it's like 12 hours now for Tech 1 regular module invention.
Tech 1 regular one. Okay, so here's a 720 millimeter artillery on my sheet. Let's see, copy time this is all in seconds, so 1440 seconds. I don't know what it is now, but you only need one of those. And then the the invention time, 30,900 seconds base.
That's the link to the last page. I suggest you drop to like halfway through and then do the blue tab on the dev thing to jump through his posts to get caught up.
So that's a little over 4 hours for invention on the 720 millimeter artillery with the new times.
So my only point on that is that it's great that the times are filling out, so we don't feel compelled to do every 5 hours, every 2 hours to flip the
Right.
stuff. It's that I should still be able to get a certain number of blueprints for an amount of time I'm willing to invest into it, right?
Well, what he did, the overall target here was that the time to market from starting your copies to having your built item pop out didn't change much. And that's not even completely accurate to say, because some stuff went up and some stuff went down by pretty decent amounts. I'm trying to find where all of this is. If your spreadsheets are anything like mine, they're goddamn disasters that you'd be embarrassed to show to anyone.
Oh, I worked really hard on mine, and I don't have a bunch of the time stuff in because I just sort of memorized it. So
Yeah, that's gonna be fun coming up on the new thing. I'm still running around on Ali just trying to same project I was working on earlier, which is can I figure out how to do industry without any idea what industry is, and racking up things. Most recent, there's no way to check to see the value of a BPO that you're considering buying. I have a bunch of BPCs, and in fact, I'm going to go and build from a couple of them because they're sitting in Amar, and I guess I can. But see how that.
How did your post on the developer forums go when you posted it?
I didn't get it out because I too have had a crazy couple of a crazy little while. But the bits that I've talked about it with have gone well. Just
Because that's the type of development that takes 2 weeks, and if you don't get it into it now, you're going to run
sure.
up against time.
Yeah, no, believe me, I know. Running up against the
I don't really like where he's putting the balance on this invention thing. Now you got me reading stuff and getting me upset.
Is there still active feedback going on in that thread?
Yes.
To a degree, yeah.
Excellent. Cool.
I don't think his balance equation being that you should spend equal parts research and manufacturing is okay. I'd like to do it half that, but I'm not the game dev, and Grayscale likes making people like me cry anyway.
What is people like me in this context?
Oh, just I want it to be a certain way, and I don't have really great reasons why it should be that way. I just feel it in my gut.
Oh,
Right.
It's the way I would design it.
What way do you think it should be?
I would take his numbers and cut them in half. I think that his driving force, at least according to the top of the thread, is that you should building should take twice as long as copy plus invention time, which means that if you're getting 50% success rate, you're spending equal portions in the research half as you are in the manufacturing half. And I think it should be closer to half that, because right now I have like a copy mule and then everyone else invents, and I was still imagining that we'd still have a drive to have copies all handled by 1 or 2 characters, while maybe 4 or 5 or 6 per copier do the invention. But we'll see where we get. If it ends up being less than 24 hours anyway, if it's more than 4 and less than 24, then it's still a day in my loop, so I don't know what else to do about it.
Yeah, well, let's see. I'm trying to get all the data together in one place. The problem with this spreadsheet is that it was only ever meant for personal use, which means that there's no thought to making it pretty.
Yeah. Oh, you know what I should have bought? I should have bought a leopard if they're seated here. I did that wrong.
There's apparently been issues with like leopards crashing the server, or crashing people on the server rather. And
I
don't
already
know if it's
crashed
fixed.
once, so you know, no big deal.
It's an audio bug, and hopefully they get it fixed.
Yeah, I know that it's a known issue that they have already solved, and I will turn off the audio just to make sure that that goes away. But I do like how early this sissy build has come out compared to, you know, a lot of previous builds. It's not very stable, but it's very, very useful.
As long as it's clear that it's not gonna be stable, and then that really nothing is completely final in terms of numbers.
Mhm. I wonder if I could put a beard on my spaceship. Let me try this. No. The answer is no. Damn.
What about a hat?
Yeah, so Lockfox, the numbers I'm getting just with like the 720 millimeter, for example, are on average, it would be about half an hour for the copying, for all the copies that you'd need at a 50% success rate, and 8.5 hours for the invention, and then 13 hours to build the total of 10 runs that you would get out of this.
Okay, and I'm seeing similar times. I'm just saying that from a practical standpoint, anything longer than 4 hours and shorter than 22 hours is still a day to me.
Right. Well, yeah, and I mean, there's at some point there's the question of, you know, whose playstyle do you balance to? Do you balance to the people who log in once a day, log in, you know, before work and after work, or you know what?
And as long as there's items that allow that, like I get like the one that my use case for mind melting invention is trying to keep up with nanofiber internal structures, because the throughput, the maximum throughput per week is something like 2,000 items, but to do that you'd have to invent every 1.5 hours.
Oh, wow.
And hit like 90% of the windows to invent over the course of a week. So I like the ability of that sort of insanity being available. As long as there's a scale, as long as there's a spectrum, I like spectrums better than just it's a module, it takes an hour and a half. I think that was bad to begin with.
I mean, modules, you know, it's not like it's a module, it takes an hour and a half. There's definitely a degree of sizes there as well. I'm looking at the nanofiber now and getting the numbers together, and it's, you know, a quarter hour for the copying and a little under 4 for the invention at 50% success rate. So It's not quite as insane as what you were saying, and to you, obviously, still a day. But
well, I think to a lot of people a day. Like I'm not necessarily gonna hit the invention button and then go away and come back in 4 hours and hit the invention button again, or.
But some will.
I know.
The guys I ran cooperative T2 with were absolutely in the before work, after work, and once before bed cycle kind of guys.
Yeah.
So as long as they still have a means to do that, as long as there is a demand to fill that, it's okay. I mean, it's a niche.
Right.
I worry about some of the other corner stuff. Like, again, my babies that I always pick against is nanofiber and not those. Neutron blaster cannon 2s are my go-to for all the stuff because they've been a huge moneymaker for me for years.
Right.
And the times on those are like 12 hours, and I don't like 12-hour cycles because I don't like 12-hour cycles. I don't like 24-hour cycles because there's no way. There's only like one way to play when you have those, and it involves not having a job.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, something to consider here is that none of this is the actual invention revamp. They've said that repeatedly. Grayscale himself said that repeatedly in the thread. They've said it repeatedly elsewhere. These are, they started playing with numbers primarily oriented on Tech 1, like the copying thing, reducing the copy times to make it worth your while to optimize by copying to build, for example. And then, as they did more and more of that, they went, oh, hey, since we did this, we could also then do this and this and help invention out a little bit. But
And this is how scope creep happens.
Some of it may be scope creep, some of it may not. But they've got the proper invention revamp still coming after Crius. So
Okay.
some of your concerns may well wind up getting addressed there.
I hope in the future invention remap there's a way to, like, I could see it being very nice to have longer job cycles and less efficiency, or more efficiency and shorter job cycles. So if you're the kind of person who can click a button every hour, then you can get amazing throughput. And if you're the kind of person who can't, then you can get still 75% of the throughput or something like that.
I think you need to balance it the other way, because right now there's no good long-term build stuff outside of capitals. The shortest like makes decent money for the amount of effort required is either ammo at let's see, for the similar margin you could do small ammo at 2.5 days, large guns at 2 days, or ships between 2 days and somewhere between 1.5 and 2 days. Like those are the big. If I'm a big wig and I want to do things with less clicks, those are the places you end up going. But
Those
none
are
of them
those
are
are
7
just
days.
invention times.
Those are build times afterwards. I won't even
Build
look at.
times. Okay.
I don't have invention numbers yet. And if you wanted to say, well, I'm so busy during the week, but I can only play on the weekend. If I could just build something during the week and come check it out, then my life would be perfect, except all of that stuff is garbage margins. It's like a quarter of what you would make by tuning in every other day.
That's probably in part because it's so easy, though. I mean, if you look at
It's also
a lot of modules that are invented, really the invention cost and then actual sale cost in JITA is like 50 to 100% higher.
Yeah, but once they do tier-side on the modules, hopefully a lot more are useful, and
right.
there's a lot more edge cases.
It's not a
doesn't
matter of a
cover the-
Terrasite thing. It's that you lose so much time because of not necessarily the short build time, because if you've got a 10-run BPC, it comes out to a decent number, but the short invention times and whatnot on it. You plug those in and go to work, and then you lose 8 hours, which could have been 2 or 3 invention attempts.
It's also, I think, with the long, like you say, with the long times, you end up with a product. For it to work, you have to be building products that work kind of like how moons do, in the sense that even with an R64 moon, you're looking at 10 million income an hour. Like it's abysmal income on a per hour basis. It's just that since you do your harvesting once a day or once a week or so, and it all builds up.
Once a month.
Once a
If
month.
you're talking about mining.
Yeah, I'm mining. I'm thinking also of reacting because it makes sense.
Yeah,
to just do them on the
mining
same
you set up
cost.
to collect and fuel once a month. Reactions you fuel once a month and collect and move once a week.
So if you've got a POS set up like that, you're making, 1 billion a pos a month, let's say, just because it's a nice round number. And you don't have to do. You can do it kind of casually, in the sense that you don't have to play every single day. If there was an industry equivalent of that, then proper industry equivalent of that, then that might be interesting. But the problem is, it's a trade-off, and you could, instead of doing that, be making, 4 billion by actually logging in every day.
Well, I mean, in a sense, industry is just like that. I'm just to pull a random blueprint out of my ass. I'm looking at an MA20 Raven blueprint. No build time bonuses or anything, and UVISC per hour is telling me that that's 630,000 ISK per hour. But you've got 10 slots, and so that's 6.3 million per hour. And if you just run those 24/7, you're making more than a dysprosium doing in profit.
Yeah, but there's no
assuming
way
that those numbers are correct.
That's more than the global demand of Ravens.
It was a blueprint that I just happened to have up. Okay?
Yeah, no, I know. But my point on T1 is that my beef with T1 has always been that it's very easy for a single character to produce global demand, and that is fucking silly. For most of the T1 products that aren't ammo, and even ammo isn't that far out. Like
And kind of what I was getting at, though, is that
global demand or a feature of T1 throughput.
That's just T1 throughput. Is that if you built any cruiser, frigate, or battleship BPO on 10 slots, you could hit a large percentage of global demand for the week on that build cycle. Like, it's just on a single character, it's just silly. That the only limiting factor is money. And as we all know, money is not a balancing beam.
So what's the solution?
Well, my proposal has always been like quadruple build times on T1, or 5x, or almost 10x on some items, just to make it so that I think the reason T2 works as a large industry thing is that as a single character, I have a very important choice to make. What am I building with those 10 slots? Because I can only get like 10% of global daily demand out in a week. So I'm only getting like 2% of the global demand if I manage to be completely perfect with it. And it's always been a pet peeve of mine that Tech 1, I think, is this giant trap for most people because they think, oh, I'm new to industry. Well, right. I'll just do what you do in MMOs, and I'll build the small stuff first, and then the big stuff next, and then I'll move on to the high skill stuff after that.
I'll just do what you do in MMOs is, I think, the worst sentence any EVE Online player could say.
Yeah, but the trap is extremely painful for anyone who doesn't know what they're doing. So you've gone and you've built 100 thoraxes because they're your favorite and you like ships that look like penises. And they now have these 100 thoraxes that you can't sell because there's no way you're going to be able to move them all or whatever. And now you're stuck with, well, I'd better just reprocess them. Or I've picked something even less popular. I've picked Abaddon, or not Abaddon.
And reprocessing won't work now because you'll lose 50% of the minerals you put in.
Or more.
Yeah, so I'd rather that mistake be, well, I can only produce like 2 in a week. Well, what else could I produce in a week? And I think that would make a better thing. And where I want to put the balance beam is just absurd, and I think I'd break everything if I tried to do it my way. I think that would make it better in my opinion. I did think up another thing that I'm worried about with the invention time changes is that the way it has been currently, so I usually do like if I was doing full bore, I'd do 1 invention cycle a day and like 2 on the weekends.
Right.
And with this current setup, yes, I can do that. That's fine. But if I missed a day during the week, I could make it up on the weekend. And with these 7 or 8 or 9 or 12 hour time cycles, there's no way I can make that up on the weekend with those time differentials. So that's my only actual real beef that has something mechanical behind it that makes me mad, as opposed to that's not the way I would do it, so it's bad.
Makes sense.
The other thing I'd love to add, I really love that they broke out the two POS research modules into a Tech 2 useful one and a research useful one. I thought that was a good change. But since there's the highest Yoda lab, I think it would be really great if we had a meta design lab to match that as well. Like, I think that would be a cool thing to have. So you'd have
Not
two of these.
super familiar of what the meta design lab would be, or what the Hyasota lab would be.
Well, so right now the Hyasota lab has the same slot layout as the standard lab, as the research lab, but it has 5% better stats on it.
Sure.
And so I would love if we had a similar meta item for the design lab that maybe 5%, maybe tune down the design lab and put the better stats on the
Okay,
other
so
one.
you're saying an improved version of the other lab.
Yes.
So and actually the Hyasota lab has one more. It
More slots.
loses the copy slot that the mobile laboratory has, but has one more MEPE and invention slot.
But now in the CC build, it's only METE.
Oh, is it? I was actually just looking at live, not Sissy. Hang on.
And that's the same for the standard lab now becomes a research lab, and so the research lab and the Hyasota lab both only do METE research, and then the advanced lab now becomes the design lab, which only does copying and invention. Also, I'd like
it's not Sissy either.
I would like if either the I don't like the fitting layout that they've done, that they basically just changed the name of the advanced lab and made it the design lab. If they're going to do that, I want both of the labs to have the same amount of fitting. So either 500 teraflops on the design lab or 600 teraflops on the research lab.
I think we've lost Ali.
Yeah, her thing crashed. She says, and I quote, "Fuck, my thing crashed."
And now the inmates are running the asylum.
And we've gained a mark.
Hello there.
Hey there.
But yeah, the meta version of the design lab isn't all that bad an idea, actually.
Also, I'd like to have the bonuses for if we're messing with the invention timescales, I want to mess with the invention bonus times on the research labs. If I say that now, he's probably just going to take it away and make it 30% instead of 50%, and I will cry even harder. But I think both need to. If you're changing one, that also needs to change along with it.
Well, change where? I mean, up, down?
Well, I always will argue up, but that's because I'm a player and I want it to be more efficient.
Yeah, well, I mean, he went and invention times changed by like a factor of 10 in many cases. So I don't know how much higher up you think you're going to get, but...
I don't know. Sorry about that. My Google Talk plugin crashed for some reasons. The first
You were
time I've
told
seen
you were told your thing crashed.
it. Yeah, that's because I was very I was very non-specific in Skype messages, but it appears to be back. I need a better computer in order to do all of the things at once that I want to do, but that's life. And
Well, talking about the variation, if 10% it all depends on what your high level is. Because if you expand the invention times and it becomes an argument of what are you going to invent instead of what's quickest, then you have more room to play around with the percentages.
sure.
And I think it also helps you. It'll help people who want to do larger operations that you'll be able to spread the spread the stuff a little bit wider, say, and it'll be more obvious when the invention times are laid out, because it wasn't inherently obvious how diverse the build times were when I started invention. Like,
This is a
go
That's
ahead.
actually, I think that's one of the things that he did a lot of is unifying build times across stuff.
Yeah. I was just going to say this is a very nice screen that I have up, aside from the fact that it thinks that I have -1 Iterons. Well, -1 miasmoses, which I will be bug reporting post-haste. But
Did you drag one Iteron into there or several?
No, I right-clicked on Desert Bus, which
Well,
is my Iteron.
Oh, it's that way because it allows you to show what it's also. The issue is it doesn't show. Oh,
Well, no, I mean
I
it's showing. It just shows -1 instead of like this is an unpackaged.
Like something else in there. Is it saying that you have
You are
-1,
losing.
or that you will lose one?
You will get it. You will
let
go
me try-
-1.
No, because it's packaged Imicus is 1, and
Definitely
if I drag
says
the
1, okay.
unpackaged one, it'll be -1 again.
Cool.
Well, that's curious.
So this is a bug.
That's an amusing one.
but it's a good bug because that means you
No.
can throw something. Wait.
What the fuck is a
Let me
-1
say.
Imicus?
Let me
What the
say.
fuck is a
Wait a
-1
second.
Imicus?
Because
So-
it allows you to throw something in there that's not packaged to see what you would get if you reprocessed it. It's just like the
Always
invention
been able
side.
to do that. You've always been able to reprocess unpackaged.
In the old screen, yes, but this one, this screen works differently.
Yeah, I mean it's a new UI.
But
The
it
thing
shouldn't say -1.
Yeah, the thing that I do like, as I was just saying, is it's got a very good breakdown of my base yield, my bonus, the tax, the total yield, and then crucially the price that I could get if I sold these versus the price that I could get if I sold the minerals. And it's pretty clear to me that I'm losing when I reprocess these, but I'm going to do it anyway.
That is especially important with ore, since the
Yeah.
only way we're going to get people to get into the habit of compressing their ore is if they see that the ore is more valuable to sell than it is to, or even get people to just sell the ore on the market instead of the minerals. Is, oh hey, if I reprocess this, I'm losing potential money, which they will if they, don't have perfect skills.
Yeah. It all depends on what the market for ore is going to look like, whether people are going to be selling primarily compressed ore to people who are either better reprocessors or people who are buying it for nullsec, or whether people are selling primarily minerals because they themselves are a good reprocessor, and instead of putting a compressor up on a POS, they put a reprocessing array up on a POS to get.
It'll depend on the grade of minerals. So I expect low ends to still stay reasonably stable because it'll still make sense to buy straight ore if you're doing most high-sec stuff. The stuff that people really care about is compression for the low ends to get them for capital manufacturing. Like
And
that's
nullsec
right.
manufacturing in
whole
general.
thing. That either nullsec is going to compress all their ABC, or we're going to see markup for compressed low-end ores in high-sec. I still see a lot of the minerals still being out on the market in raw form because it still makes sense to ship around reprocessed high-end minerals. Sorry, I meant high-end originally. High-end minerals because they don't take much. They don't take much space per value.
No, they don't. They're yeah. What I expect will happen is in high sec ores will get sold basically for straight mineral value, for perfect refined mineral value. People will compete themselves down to that, and no lower. Minerals will do whatever they do. I wouldn't expect to see too much compressed nullsec ore necessarily. Anyone trying to do production out in nullsec is going to keep that around for themselves.
We generate
Well,
excess
ship.
high-ends in nullsec, though.
Well, sure, but you'll refine them, and then it's like he was saying, high-end minerals are easy to move. You can fill a jump freighter with them and
You
have.
But they're
wouldn't
still going to
afford-
compress. They're still going to. If you own nullsec space, you're still going to tell your plebes to compress their ore.
Oh yeah, sure. I
before it
mean,
goes to things.
our plan, we're not upgrading every refinery we have, at least not at first. We're going to upgrade one or two of them in our central part of Declan, and then out in the main mining systems, we'll put up POSs with compression arrays and set them to Alliance use. I should probably test if that works on the test server. But then we'll tell miners to we'll tell miners to use the compression arrays on the POS to compress their ore so that they can get it back to the capital to sell. But it's going to be sold in the capital. I doubt you're going to see much of that, at least from us. I can't speak for anyone else. You're not going to see much of it then getting shipped onward to Empire. We'll refine it and ship high-end minerals on, sure, maybe. But the ore itself, I'm speaking just for Declan here, and not much of that you're going to see leaving the region.
So I get that nullsec will keep its hands on stuff, but one, I don't have faith in the competency of renters for one. So I expect some supply to come from that. Also, high-end ores should start showing up in low-sec in grav sites. So that will be a different thing to worry about as well.
Yeah, no, for sure.
And still, low-sec capital producers, the few that are left, are still going to put a premium on the best compression stuff, and either that's going to be Veldspar when you can get it, or Arc when you can get it. I don't know how they're going to optimize the tool to pick the right stuff, because you're going to end up.
It's funny that you say the few that are left. Are you aware of the new assembly array?
No.
So, in response to, hey, low-sec capital production is getting pile-driven, they made a new POS array, a Thucker component assembly array, which is a 25% reduction in manufacturing time and 10% reduction in manufacturing materials for components of any type.
Oh man, I want me some of those. Please tell me it's not low-sec only.
It is low-sec.
It is low-sec only.
Balls.
That's the very point of it.
Oh man, I want that from
actually the fact that it's getting a bonus to Tech 2 components and Tech 3 components.
Holy shit! I'm so jump freightering my damn component builds to our low-sec POSs.
I know, right? I mean, that's really the original complaint was just capitals, so they actually went a step or two further with making it all components. That's really, really good.
Is that low-sec only, or is that low-sec and null-sec?
Yes, it's low-sec only.
Oh, it's even better.
So low-sec
it has the usual restricted to security less than 0.4, which actually now means less than or equal to, I would suspect. But it also has restricted to security level greater than 0.1. Which probably is greater than or equal to if they did it right.
So one thing that came up from someone sort of watching along and not nerding out in here, high-end ore is appearing in low-sec. One more hit to high-end prices that Hidden Belts didn't already depress. Certainly it is increasing the supply of high-end minerals, which are already not as lucrative. How much effect do you think that will actually have on their price, given the somewhat scarce low-sec miners?
So, I mean, low-sec is the high-end ores appearing in low-sec isn't going to make much of a difference. I don't think.
People who complain about there needs to be more industry in low-sec are kind of deranged anyway.
Back when Diagoras was still active and tweeting, I remember that one of his series of tweets at one point was like a comparison of overall volume by security level, and it was like mining volume in low-sec increased by 50% since blah blah blah.
But the fact
and that was
and they will go
going up from but my point is that going up by 50% was going up from like 0.3% to 0.5 or something percent of Eve-wide mining volume. Nosy can attest to this. Not a whole lot of people mine in low-sec.
At least low-sec belt threading is back, kind of.
Yeah.
We do it for bait, but that's about it.
Mining is great bait. You put a procure out and people just can't resist it.
Or people are smart and think it's a procure.
Well, yeah, I see a
that's not.
procure, and bait is literally my first thought.
We've had our guys actually turning a handsome profit on ice mining because
Yeah.
no one will engage their bait.
I made, I think, 10 million ISK over an hour in nullsec that I, just mined out a belt because I, there was a cloaky camper, and eventually he decided after I mined for long enough that obviously I was just dumb, um, and and met my friend in my rapier. That was. So that was incredibly, emotionally satisfying, but not particularly profitable in that case, compared to the ratting that I had been doing.
I am the more I hear about the capital production stuff in LowSec, the happier I am about it, because the balance should still be that NullSec gets its own powerhouse, and that's because that there's it's all of the guys marching in all the same direction, and they got the best space, and that's fine. I'm willing to.
The important thing about this assembly array is, yes, it restores most of the. It restores a pretty good chunk of the disadvantage, but does so in a way that's attackable and as out in space and it could be taken down. It's not like, hey, you're getting this for free because you're in LowSec station that no one can assault.
Yeah, and so now it stops being that any low-sec solo guy can make capitals, which is going to be the end of my point. That currently, the way it's been for Parasoja at Fail and K162 and the guys in QCats and everyone else I know who's doing their own capital manufacturing has been, well, I'll just compress it and I'll ship it, and it's basically zero risk the entire time, and I get to make whatever money, and that has made it so that the margin on capitals is absolutely atrocious because they're mass-produced. They might as well be selling for raw mineral cost at the rate they are before all these changes were announced.
Yeah, and those new assembly arrays, they use those covert research tools that started dropping in ghost sites and had no purpose and whatnot.
Oh,
So
even better.
It's finally a use for those. You can go buy them out in Jita. Oh, wait, I already did.
I missed that announcement. I'm glad that's happening. It's interesting too because where it's going right now is LowSec has the component type benefits, and you can get into it without having to do anything particularly advanced, which is nice. The component bonuses are, I think, make nullsec and lowsec a wash with regards to which is the better place.
Not quite, because, well, no, you're right. It is pretty much a wash.
Yeah, because nullsec you refine and you get more minerals and.
Yeah, no, actually, I'm wrong about you being right. From the build perspective, they have the 10% component array. If I'm building, though, I build my components in an NMR station and get a 5% bonus, and then the capitals themselves on an NMR station and get a 5% bonus on the capital build, and that comes out to something close to like 9.25% or something close to that. Or maybe I use a POS array, I don't know. But my compressed store is going to give me 20% more minerals, whereas theirs will give them 4% more.
Sure,
Or,
so
well,
they get
no,
more
not
than
4%,
4%, because they refine at 54% in a
Oh,
POS.
I
It's
thought
like
there was
12% or something.
there was like a 7% difference. I thought.
Yeah, I don't remember what it is.
It is like 7% because the POS array is the same as a 2 upgraded Amar station.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit better than a 1 upgraded Minmatar station, but a little bit worse than a 2 upgraded.
So then the other part that I think a big balancing beam, I'm hoping will be a big balancing beam, but I think it's going to end up washing out by the time it hits the real release. The job costs should be lower in LowSec because they should get all the extra devisors that are sort of behind the scenes, right? haven't been
I don't
seeing.
know.
I've been seeing job costs more expensive at POS because it seems that none of the POS math is working right now. So
Well, yeah, none of the POS math is working, but the bonus. I mean, they should see very very little base contribution from the build hours in that system because it will just be their own build hours.
but the system modifier from all of the stations in that system, right?
Well, yeah, they'll pick up a modifier from if they pick a 10 station system, they'll pick up a nice fat modifier from that. They'll pick up the modifier from he just announced the other day whatever their bonus for encouraging people to use multiple structures on a large POS instead of one structure on a small POS was, and I think that was something cost related, and
Yep.
so on and so forth. But on the other hand, in nullsec, if I'm building an NMR station, I have like a 50% modifier right off the bat there, just from the station.
Oh, okay. I was thinking the Gulf was going to be larger, and I guess it shouldn't make as much difference on the cap margins as it will on the smaller stuff. Because I imagined it after all the dev blogs came out that we were going to have the good industrialists is going to be removed from the bad industrialist by who is going to pay out the nose for build fees at the job
Well,
costs.
I mean, that may well happen. It still happen is that all the people who don't pay attention to anything just keep building within 2 jumps of jitta, whereas all the people who are paying attention spread out a little bit, and then the average cost for smart users will come down to an average of 2% or something. Well, the people who are all still not paying attention to anything are paying 5, 6, 7%. But I don't know. I mean, there's plenty of barely used systems or empty systems. He put it in the dev blog, and then more info in the thread on just how many systems are not used at all, or would have the minimum cost, or 1 to 2%, 2 to 3%, 3 to 4%, given current distribution, and the vast majority of high-sec systems are very, very lightly used.
Has anybody seen, speaking of job costs, have we seen the Teams stuff? Do we have an idea on when that's actually going to be real yet?
Like the costs for Teams?
So I started messing with the UI, and I finally got it to bid on them, but I was under the impression we still couldn't leverage them yet.
Oh, yeah, I don't
I
know
have
if the
no
teams
idea.
themselves are actually working. The bonuses, it shows you the bonuses and whatnot. Where do you find the frickin' teams anyway?
It's
So
at the
there
bottom
are
of the...
teams right where I'm looking.
And yeah, you go to the Teams chartering. It either flips up or flips down for the
Yeah.
teams you can use or teams you should go
On the-
buy.
on the
And I
industry
still
window.
can't
Oh, yeah,
get
okay,
it
it is.
to work. So it's probably the funding issue. Can a corp bid? Did you get it with a corp? Yes.
I think so.
But it still becomes a system asset. It
Yeah.
doesn't become a corp asset, which I still want my own teams. I want to go and it's the min-maxer in me is I want to cultivate these teams to be what I want them to be and then leverage them. And I don't care if it costs me a little bit more, but I want to be able to do it my way, damn it.
I mean,
Hell out of
it's all
my
well and
way.
good, but if you could, grow your own teams and then just keep them forever, we're back to the whole, hey, it's a solved problem thing, and industry being a solved problem that you just press the button and get your money is part of what they're trying to get away from.
Oh, I still like the expiring mechanic. I'm willing to pay out the frickin' nose for custom-built teams and that they expire, and I better use them up to make back my money. I love the idea. I just hate the current implementation because they're just so random, and it's hard to. It's a lot of variables
so
to try and internalize.
There's 6 spawning per hour right now, or something like that, or that's what the spawn rate's supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
And they last for 30 days. So that's going to be, once this has gone live and has been out for a while, there will be 4,000 teams in existence at any given point.
But I care. My problem so far with the UI is that So each of the bonuses is one member per team based, right?
Yeah, it's like each team member contributes a bonus, and then there's, I think so, yes.
So it's really hard to figure out, like, if I wanted to go bid, like if I want to just go find a thing, there's a little bit of searching, but it's really hard to zero in on one that has like the mix that I want and doesn't have a whole bunch of extra crap on it. Like, it's fine that it's randomly produced, and some of the bonuses are absolutely silly, and I'd really love to leverage them, but it's a lot to try and decide on. Like, how do you internalize that many variables when you want to go and say, okay, well, like I'm looking right now, there's one in Motsu that has like a 20% strategic cruiser time bonus, or one in Akadagi that has a 16% ME bonus on recon ships. I'm like, oh,
well, I mean,
that would make a big difference on my bottom line. Now I have to try and I should bid for it, and then I should do this thing, and then like all this other crap. And wait a minute, what was I thinking in the first place?
ultimately, though, I think that's a good thing. You can describe the concept very, very easily. You have these teams, and they give you bonuses, but they make your jobs cost more because you have to pay them. It's easy to understand, but there's a lot of depth to master, and a lot of different routes that you can take to optimize your hiring, and that's good. I think.
More things you can put into
Yeah,
it.
I guess all the time I was going to save on less clicks, I'm going to spend on trying to find the damn perfect thing.
Which
Yeah,
is
but
more
I mean,
fun
look at
than
it this way.
clicking.
If you could do what you're saying, and let me craft my own team and just pay out the nose for it. Like I said, we're back to a solved problem, and it's just a solved problem that you pay more money for. But there's not a whole lot of depth of gameplay there.
Talking about solve gameplay, tooltips. I threw a link in there of what Carker threw in the forums yesterday for the updated changes that may hit Sissy next week. What are your thoughts?
I mean, it still looks like it still looks a bit messy, but it's less messy than the old system. The columns are less messy than.
Yeah, less washout for sure.
The
Yeah.
overlapping thing in the distance problem.
I think I prefer the one without the background, with just the text.
Yeah, that's the new one.
It obscures stuff less. Oh, it is.
No, they're
Shows you how
both
much
of
I
them
love them.
are. Both sides are new. The right side is on edge view. If you're clicking on something that's on the edge, so
What do you
yeah.
mean if you're clicking on something that's on the edge?
If you're clicking to something that's on the edge of your screen that's not seen, that's what you see. You see a full window. But if it's something that's in view, you see the other. And because they changed the point, instead of it having being like a 5 center cube, it's a 1 now or something. You're gonna have less people that you can actually click on. So
I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm looking at the screenshot right now, and I see one which has a column. I see one which has a dark column with no background text, and one which has a full column or full background list, basically. I, for one, like the column with the unbackgrounded text. It obscures a lot less of my screen while still pulling out the icons that they're easy to target.
I've got that screenshot up on mine currently, or
Yeah.
I did. The thing is that right now, if you click on an icon, it's a 5x5. It's the full square, right? And that's what it pulls up. Anything that's behind it, it pulls it up for however many it is.
Sure.
In the new one, the point where you're putting your mouse is smaller, and it only pulls up the 5 that are below where your mouse point is. So the list is more discriminating. But it's persistent, which is back to the way it worked before. They expanded the point when they added the new system.
Sure. Oh, damn it. This is a different frickin' kind of. Alright.
What?
So I'm adding to my list of things that are bad for industry discovery. I was like, I want to test out the teams because I saw an equipment team in Penirgaman that looked feasible. So I was like, great, I'll go over there. I didn't have my blueprint anymore. No problem. I'll just buy a new blueprint. Afterburner, that's equipment, right? Because the previous thing was a reactive armor hardener. They're both ship equipment. So I bought a 1MN Afterburner 1 blueprint, which I can build. I do have the required skills for it, but it's a navigation or a propulsion module one. So there's no way to go from a blueprint to teams which will affect it. But
Even if you load the blueprint, it doesn't automatically filter for teams
it
that are
does.
relevant.
But I couldn't look at the blueprint until I had it. So I went 2
yeah, no way to
jumps.
preview. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go to Amar and do this over there. Fortunately, no one will gank me in my leopard on Singularity.
This is kind of a thing I'd been thinking. So I mentioned a blog post earlier, and what it is the whole good complexity, bad complexity thing. And part of that relates to, bad complexity is bad in part because it makes it harder for discovery for a new player or someone trying to get into the new activity.
Well, that's the same as the issue we were having last week, was because location of where you can mine for minerals isn't, and which minerals to mine for or to mine for the minerals you're going to manufacture isn't in the client anywhere.
Right.
It's,
I mean, it's all
it's
a
vague.
discoverability. It's all a discoverability thing.
But yeah, no, I've been thinking, and it's related to the teams. The bill of materials, it's very nice. It does tell you the skills and materials that you will need. What it doesn't tell you, and what I think it should tell you, or would be beneficial to tell you, is, here's, you're a bad person in the Amar Empire. It's a good thing that you're in a shuttle and they can't get you.
Oh, I'm just a bad person overall.
But yeah, what it doesn't show you is it shows you requirements. It doesn't show you things that can help you improve. And some of it's straightforward and obvious, and some of it isn't so much. And I think it would be good if that manufacturing tab had an area that said, here are the skills that can help you build this thing better. And
You are losing out due to not having this.
Yeah.
In ISS,
and here are the teams that.
Industry, basically.
Yeah, that was mentioned last week. With
ISIS for industry,
for industry. Yeah.
Okay. So now I can. Oh, and I can do. It's telling me about these other things that I can do with it, which is kind of cool. All right. So teams. This one. So now I have the Salvation Angels team with me, who make it
2%
more efficient. Yeah. So it goes from 708. Yeah. All right. I am getting the benefit from it. It does cost me. Wait, they're lowering the job cost.
Yep.
But they're a team, so I have to spend money on them.
Nope.
But I'm confused.
Okay. The person that puts the team in the system pays for it. But the people using the team doesn't pay for it.
I understand what Trevor was.
It still seems like we're asking for a lot of benefit from the hearts of really mean people.
Oh. My slots are full, so I'll fix that.
One slot. Ah.
I mean, look, this isn't my industry character. The only reason I'm on her is because I have skill points.
Come on, all
you're
characters.
trying to listen
characters.
Hang on, wait a minute. I had zoned out a little bit there to do something else with the team thing. Okay, so one of the bonuses that the team has is lowering the job cost.
Apparently.
but you pay more for the team. There's the cost to hire the team,
Yeah,
which is separate from the salary for the team, and the salary for the team should be increasing your job cost.
There's no salary for the team, though.
Yes, there is. Look, right here.
The salary 8% behind the team Ali has selected. It's a 2% increase to their efficiency of the job, but an 8% salary. But I'm not sure what the 8% applies to.
Well,
Like
nothing.
installation cost?
The 8%. It's plus 8. The salary is plus 8% on the install cost for the job.
Yeah.
So if it costs you 100,000 disk, hiring that team will make it cost 108,000 disk.
Okay, this is just busted then. This is just straight busted.
It's fine, but it discourages using teams for very small jobs. But if you put a lot of runs in, and
No,
it's just one installation.
When I say this is busted, I mean I found a bug. Because, so check this. I have the team as a salary of 8%, right? Job cost right now, no team, system cost index, a baby bit, tax 10%, fine, whatever. The MR Empire doesn't like me very much. Add the team. Job cost is now 195 ISK. Team has added 8%, and the tax is the same. The job cost is down for no reason. So
Yeah, you're doing a one run. You would expect it with a salary of 8% on an installation cost.
I would expect
To go up
that to
minus
increase.
8%.
Yeah.
Jump the job runs on there and see what the price does.
The install cost is based on the value of the item that you're building. So you're building 10 afterburners, and that's worth like, I don't know, like 500,000 disk or something.
Sure.
So, the salary, whoever said it'll distance.
I was wrong.
Teams, yeah, no, you're wrong.
Yeah.
But yeah, it definitely should not be lowering the cost. That's for sure. That's
All right. Using
All right.
team lowers.
I'm going to hire all the capital teams to high sec.
presumably you can do that.
It's sync.
The
Yes,
really
that's never
interesting
gonna happen.
teams, at least in my book, the really interesting teams are going to be the ones that apply to capital, or rather super capitals. And I don't know if there are distinct super capital teams or if those are just capitals. But
I've been loving all the ones that have to do with individual T2 ship groups, so like Ammar Recons or something like that, I think is a...
well, it
neat-
doesn't focus down that much. You've got broad and narrow specialties. So
I thought you still could get
Or
racial...
medium ships. You can.
I don't know. I'm scrolling through here and I don't see anything that's gone so far as racial.
Oh, I thought there was racial ones.
Like
I
I'm
might have read
looking
it
at
wrong.
one that's got a bonus to small class, but also a bonus to assault frigates.
Yeah.
Or
Oh,
maybe
that's
another one
that's
that's
the
got
doubling I'm thinking
bonuses for capital class and carriers specifically.
of. But still, I'm looking forward to it, and as long as Fox 4 comes out with an API, so I can not work at work and figure it out before I get home.
The API for industry should be on the server Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah, I know he skipped the code review to get it up.
Well, yeah, and I mean, we pushed on him very hard and said, look, this needs to be, oh, hey, there are super capital specific teams. Okay.
Quarter to market.
So is it on the server now?
I don't know, but we were telling him, look, you need to get this out ahead of time, even if it's just with dummy data, so that people can rebuild their tools.
Yeah, and the SDE is the other half that's going to be important to have sooner rather than later.
Well, I mean, SD.
Yeah, I see a Titan one specific.
Yep.
It's actually
Sure.
in a wormhole currently, which I think is funny.
Yeah, so the broad bonus, the capital class bonus, looks to apply to supers, but then there's also the specific bonuses for Titans and whatnot. And those teams I expect will be very, very hotly contested, especially the very high quality ones by the blocks and whatnot.
That'll actually be an interesting ISK. That'll be both interesting ISK-wise, and also since the location of the teams is going to be obvious, it'll be more...
Oh yeah, you'll know exactly who hired that team away from you.
Exactly who hired that team.
And you'll know exactly where
And
their
not only that,
factory is, if you didn't already.
where their
Also that,
factory is,
yeah.
and whether there's a Titan in build at the moment.
Will
would you know if
those
there's
teams show as available even though they're being utilized?
If
Well, I
someone,
mean, they'd be used by anyone in the system who is able to use it. So I don't.
Well,
You
my
could
point
infer.
being, once you set them up on a job, like you say, I'm building this and I'm using this team, they're still available to take on another job after that?
They can be used for any job in as many jobs as you want in the system concurrently.
Oh, perfect.
So-
Then I'm
so
less
you
annoyed
won't-
by them.
yeah, you won't necessarily know for that reason, but like if there's a CSAA in CCP TAC US, and
Which there's
which there's not, but if there was, I'm just like pulling a system up. If there was, the CSAA was online, and there was a team in the system. It's an additional piece of kind of feedback saying this is likely to actually be something in build as opposed to just
Well, yeah.
an array
I
that
mean,
But
someone left.
that's not
So-
how it's going to be done. It's going to be gotten, paid for. People are going to use it for bait for the it's 30 days or 31 and a half days that it's there, and right before it drops off, they'll put Titans in build. So it doesn't. So the system
what the
doesn't
hell are
show
you
up
smoking? I mean, okay.
because it's not. You don't. It's only when it starts that it's in work. You can have it start whenever, as long as it was active when the job was installed. The bonus is going to work.
I see what he's saying. He's saying that if you hire a team, you don't have to put your Titan in build until the 29th day the team is in system, thus lowering that window of, well, obviously there's a team there and a CSA, so there's a Titan in build or whatever.
Yeah. So, just speaking from watching our super capital builders and so forth, no one is going to just have 29 days of downtime just so that they can put a team build in like on the last day or something.
Yeah.
You know, if people are building, they are going to constantly have a team in that system because they will be regularly putting in new jobs,
Makes sense.
and their builds wind up staggered so that they're not like putting in 5 Titans all in one day or something.
Sure.
I mean, just a thought. I mean, I can be wrong, always.
Yes.
Alright. So let me try this. Let me try actually using the team and see what happens. Let me just. What? Huh? But
This team has a 8% bonus to materials.
where did my skill points go?
You're extra? They didn't. You haven't been at a mass test lately, have you?
I've been to mass tests ever. Like I was in ROIR, which means that I haven't been. Hang on, I'm gonna be sad.
You're in the right screen if you had them.
I know. I use them like every single time new sissy stuff comes up, and I logged on to Ali because I was all, oh great, I have mass test SP, I can use that.
But if it's been 5 mass tests ago, you know you don't get it refurbished, you know.
I didn't know that. Look, I'm new to this. I didn't know that, and now I'm sad. I'm training mass production by hand like a farmer. So,
Well, and this will learn you to just train industry on all of your characters so you don't have to worry about it.
See, I've actually
I don't
done
know what your
this.
problem is. I've got 8 characters worth of this stuff.
Even my 150 million SP PvP character main has at least basic production skills.
I have industry.
Everyone but my Sinowalt has it.
Oh, my Sinowalts have it too.
Oh.
My Sinowalts are 10 million SP characters that can fly
Well,
freighters and interceptors.
I didn't want my Sinowalts. I wanted my Sinowalts to have free clones because I'm a cheap ass.
I value the flexibility of having a bunch of extra like freighter pilots and stuff more than I value free clones. Especially since at 9 million skill points, your clones still only cost like 70,000 disc.
That's true.
Or something like that.
I just hate my 160 or 190 clones. These things are too fucking expensive. Because, again, I'm a cheap ass. I just don't like paying that money.
It's nice to
Everybody
never
does,
give a fuck.
but it still happens.
Yeah, I know I can. I mean, I'm perfectly fine driving around in 2 billion worth of implants, but then I get pissed about the 50 millionest clone. Figure that one out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not buying that argument. Clones are too expensive.
I mean, okay, so here's the thing with clones. I am paying 20 million ISK or whatever I pay for a 150 million skill point clone. But when I step into a ship, I want to go flying an interceptor. 10 million of my skill points out of that 150 million apply to that interceptor. But if I die and get potted, I'm still paying for every last one of those. And I suspect that's probably some of where your annoyance comes from. I mean, at least your hardwirings, your implants, other than stat implants, but that's another matter. You plug in hardwirings or a slave set or whatever and go flying around in a ship, you are making the conscious choice to use something that gives you a benefit to that ship.
Yeah, it's
So
that I can avoid
you're paying for them and they help your ship. I'm paying for the other 140 million skill points that don't apply to the interceptor I'm flying. Regardless.
Well, it's like, why would I run around in nullsec in a derp ship when the body sitting in that derp ship is 10,000 times more valuable than the derp ship? Like, that's the thing that kills me, is that it means that I don't want to go fly derp ships. It means it's like, well, I better have like a cruiser or something with enough EHP so I can get the heck out of there if things go south. But that's because I'm a wuss, and I don't like getting potted unless I absolutely have to be.
Yeah.
Personally, I think it would be interesting if clones did look and say, okay, you got potted, what was the last thing you were flying? That's what you need to pay based on.
That would be great. I would totally do that.
So
like, I don't mind getting potted in a capital because I'm like, well, I'm already out all that money. Just keep. You could only kill me once.
Yeah,
right?
just 2 years.
Just keep drinking until the pain goes away.
yeah. So it's sort of like a wrap-up thing. As we're getting on towards the end of the stream time, Dirk McGurk asked, if it wasn't part of this change, is manufacturing and industry in a broader sense now the single most complicated gameplay in all of EVE? And does that make the learning curve even steeper for players coming into the game?
No.
I don't know that
doesn't.
it does.
I don't think it does. I like the UI for onesie twosie jobs that when you want to get your feet wet. I'm still not sold that it's going to be great for the heavy industry stuff, but again, we shouldn't be designing for me because I am a bad customer.
You've made that very clear over the course of this
terrible
stream.
customer.
You're very demanding. No, okay. So I need to go and fucking publish this blog post already. It's been something I've been writing for a week, touching on the whole good complexity, bad complexity thing again. Because there is good complexity and bad complexity. The good complexity is you've got a lot of parts and a lot of choices to make, and a lot of paths to success. And the bad complexity is, none of those paths are clear or badly explained, or the mechanics don't work well together, or a lot of those choices are redundant, and so despite there being 50 choices, only 2 of them actually make sense. And I mean, right now with Tech One Industry, the problem with it isn't so much that there's bad complexity as there's no complexity. There's, your only choice is what do I build, and even that's debatable given how fast you can build stuff. Now we're going and adding in, yes, there are more choices. Where do I build matters because of teams and the build costs and so on and so forth. But all of that is conceptually very easy to grasp. And all of the information is very clearly, from what I've seen so far anyway, conveyed to the user in the interface. So that you have choices to make, and what choices you can make are conveyed very clearly.
It's also the case that the new industry with the kind of decision making and flexibility being rewarded, as long as it's learnable, and it being learnable is not there yet. If you watch the last Hangout that's on my channel, in particular the second half of it when I was actually on Sissy, you can see that reaction. But it's not quite where it needs to be in terms of learnability, but once it gets there, this system has built in a very nice kind of balance between a newer or a smaller scale player and a larger scale player, in that the best way to maximize your profit is to be very, very flexible and very, very mobile and small scale and able to just follow the best deals. And kind of that kind of play is not something that the big industrial
It's
powerhouses are
going to
going to
lend
be
itself
doing.
to a newer player just because he's got less to move, less to
Right.
relocate with.
And you've
Well,
got
And then you got push and pull factors, which is classic economics.
But
Sure,
that's still
yeah.
been a factor in competent high volume manufacturing. I know that the drive
Well,
is
right
to
now,
all
the only
build
reason
the
you need
same
to move
thing.
is because your station ran out of slots because some other asshole came in and took them.
I have done that before. I have
Oh, sure.
bombed out NPC stations for getting slots. It was hilarious.
Yeah, but I mean that's the only decision right now, and so you say, okay, what's the closest station with enough slots for me? Tajita.
Yeah.
it's
And so yeah.
yeah.
Obviously, Ali thinks that she's played with it more and has a different perspective. So I'll take her word on the learnability thing.
It's
But
if you don't where I want it to be, just to kind of say straight up, where I want it to be is you should not have to have a spreadsheet to build your first thing. You should have to have a spreadsheet to build your 100th thing, but not your first thing, because it's that's the kind of little barrier to entry thing right there, that I think the UI doesn't provide well enough. It should be, oh, I can make these comparisons. Here's the UI kind of guiding me towards what are the kinds of comparisons I want to make. And then when you find yourself spending half your time making those comparisons in the UI, which will suck more than a spreadsheet will because it's not a spreadsheet, that's the point where you take it out of the game and you go to your third-party things and your spreadsheets and your Python programming and all of that stuff. And that provides, I think the new industry system does a lot better job of providing both the hook in terms of if you get into it, there is something you can be doing, and the long-term satisfaction in that if you want, it doesn't stay the same thing. You can't just write your spreadsheet and then you've solved it.
right, no press button, get bacon. There's a lot of depth there, and you're constantly having to readjust to the changing circumstances.
Yeah, but but the changes though make the changes that are there, the holes are there, very, very blatant now.
I
Good,
mean,
that just means they're more fixable.
yeah. There's also the whole the system is now fixable on a back end, in a back end kind of way that it wasn't before, which is
Yeah,
satisfying.
I don't know how much public they've said about that, but it's
Fox
kind of a
4,
funny anecdote.
yeah, well, Fox 4, when we were out at FanFest, was telling a bunch of people about 15,000 lines of code in a single.
Oh, okay, yeah. If it was said in public, then yes, they rewrote.
This was the FanFest. This
all
was
of
a
industry.
FanFest discussion. We were all somewhat drunk at the Celtic Cross, as you do. That 15,000 lines of code or so was involved being rewritten on CCP's part out of one function into some sort of sane arrangement of functions.
I remember something like that floating around on Twitter. Like we rewrote basically a book of code.
Yeah.
Yeah, industry was one routine in the code before this, and they went and rewrote it all. So
Please
they'll have
tell
a
me
lot.
that's a lie.
They'll have a lot easier time in the future as well. To loop back to the question, though, complexity is good as long as it's something that you can grasp and learn easily. And they're doing a pretty good job getting towards that with the new system.
Yeah, it's not yet done in its current shape. And there's a role here for tutorial, I imagine, which Rise should be working on.
This is one of the things. If they do their jobs right, a tutorial shouldn't be necessary, because the interface itself and the game itself, it'll all
It
be
gives you
self-evident.
feedback on what's going on, basically.
Yeah.
I really like that the UI is bringing out the complexity that I've always seen, that I've gone and tried to put in my own spreadsheets, and we're actually able to dig into, because it wasn't obvious before. And I think there's a lot of good chances here. There's a lot of little tweaks that need to be done to make it more usable, but I'm overall happy. I still have to go play with high volume stuff though, because I think
There's going to be a point. I mean,
that's my break point.
The UI is not going to, and probably should not, ever deliver like everything that one of your spreadsheets does.
No.
No, but it should be able to get the same information eventually. Yeah. Like, I get that my spreadsheet would be efficient and optimized for what I care to look for, and I've spent the time to go do that and dig it out and build it. Great, but that shouldn't stop someone who hasn't touched it at all from opening it up and maybe having my spreadsheet in the other window and going, oh, okay, now I understand why you did that, is because when I open this up, the tree opens up. And I like the idea of the industry ISIS thing. I'm hoping that I want to like ISIS more than I do, but that's probably because they set some really absurd skill requirements for it, and I still don't like the mapping. Like, I love the idea and the tech tree. I just fucking hate the way that they've laid out the
actual masters, you mean?
Actual mastery, because it's just like it reeks of, do you play this game? But
yeah,
well, it's called mastery is not usefulness. If you get my drift.
Well, it's also a point that if you don't like the masteries, you should have been in the thread where the masteries were talked about to begin with, and when they were actually working the code and yelling about all the stuff that you should be less, because they did. They changed tons from the original implementation to its the way it is now.
They still left astrometric engineering in the original release.
Yes, but that's awesome, so they should leave it.
I still think that was just a troll, but it still pissed me off.
Well, that was a
troll successful, yeah.
On the discoverability front, I mean, one of the things that is missing, and I think shouldn't be, is, the ISIS would be great, but if you open up a ship to look at its info, one of these info tabs, there's already a materials tab on ships, and I don't know if that's there on live or not.
It is, I think.
It is not.
It is.
There's the materials tab, and now that I think about it, I actually may have seen a blue post where they said they had just left that in for bug testing or something. But if it's there to stay, then that should have here's your blueprint that you need for this ship, and there's your first hook for a new player who opens up the show info window and is looking around and, oh hey, I can build this ship. How do I build this ship? And then he can show info on the blueprint from there and go and find out more on, the blueprint has its materials and skills that you need, and its mastery tab, its ISIS tab, if we're dreaming here.
Sure.
And then it gets him into the industry interface, which continues to prompt him and lead him into how to do industry. And so that's where you get the, if you do this right, you don't need a tutorial thing.
Yeah. No, I mean,
I was just murdered by this ship.
That ship,
I can actually build this ship.
That ship is completely awesome. It just killed me. I'm looking at the info on it. Oh, I could build this. That would make me a badass.
Well, no, that would make you an embarrassing lost male, but...
well, yes, but the newbie doesn't know that.
Look. All right, so we've hit the hour-and-a-half mark, which is usually when I cut this off for the sanity of anyone who goes back over and watches them. But has been a good talk. Certainly good to have the stuff there. For folks who are interested in CSM business, the CSM Town Hall is on June 22nd. That'll be a week from tomorrow. Come on out and
listen to people blame CSM for not doing enough.
Yes,
CSM,
but
they're writing more code for the job thing. Yeah.
Ask CSM better questions than all the people who ask us questions about how Eve is dying.
Why Plex so high?
Because CCP personally hates you. That's
because
why.
they're a bubble and you should get the fuck out before they crash.
Or that, or what Minna said. Anyways, see you all in 2 weeks, and hopefully some of you at the town hall.